All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Here we are with another review, and this one is Lilo and Stitch. I just had a chance to watch this film. I actually watched a How to Train Your Dragon just before I watched this film, so it was like about a few weeks, one after another. I think Lilo and Stitch is the best live action Disney remake. And I really mean this. I don't think there's any other Disney remake that comes close to the levels of Lilo and Stitch. And partly because of how this story was truly a character-driven story between Lilo and Nani and their relationship. It was done super well. And let me tell you, there's one person I did not recognize in this is Zach Galifianakis. I really thought it wasn't him until my wife was like, it looks like Zach Galifianakis. Is that him? And I was like, I I don't know. It looks like him, but is that him? Because he lost quite a bit of weight, and he really didn't look like himself in this film. I can show you pictures of him if he's somewhere in here, but he really felt a little bit different, totally different, and didn't even behave like himself, like the character he was, playing in what do you call this Hangover. I expected some of that Hangover behavior to come out, but no, he truly looks very different. Look at him. That's him now. That's he doesn't he looks unrecognizable, honestly. I don't know what it is, but I hope he's doing well. I think he did great in this story. But this is very much character driven between Lilo and Nani, and very much a sister relationship, which I really liked. So there's a relationship between the two sisters, the friendship between Lilo and Stitch itself, who, in this case, behaves like a dog. And it's sort of the story about the sacrifices Nani has to make to decide whether Lilo is going to be living with her or in some kind of foster care. Now, the story does take some liberties. It does deviate from the main story of Lilo and Stitch in some parts, and I think all Disney stories do this in general. But this one did not do it in a disingenuous way. It did not do it in a dishonest way. It wasn't immersion breaking. It wasn't completely out of character. Like Stitch pretty much was Stitch. Like if you compare the animated film versus this, I think you would pretty much see the same character in most of the sequences. The only thing is this massive decision not to include the bounty hunter who they had in the cartoon. There was this giant shark-looking monster that will come to hunt after Stitch, and that forces Jumba and Pleakley to sort of join forces to, with Stitch to save what do you call this Lilo, because Stitch is the only one who can help Lilo, and they are the only ones who can free Stitch because they make a deal with Stitch to go and help Lilo, and they're going to try to free Lilo, and they defeat the shark guy. And that whole sequence is not in this film. So other than that, about the sister story, I think was done really really good. I think there was like a grandma or an aunt, Tutu. I think she was hilarious. I think she was a fantastic character in the story. I actually enjoyed Amy Hill's performance. I don't even know who she is or what she acted in before, but she was really fun. The CIA guy, Cobra Bubbles, like is a secret agent sort of character. I felt he didn't really feel like a secret agent. He didn't really feel cool. He didn't really quite have that strength in his character, right? I think Jumba and Bleakley did a decent job. I feel Billy Magnuson's performance as Bleakley is kind of weird. I always see Billy Magnuson with this sort of very eerie and creepy face, like that of a villain, and so it's just weird to see him in like trying to play a comedy role of a character like Bleakley. I just felt that he didn't quite sit well into that role. Bleakley is generally a very, awkward and funny alien, and seeing him in that role it just didn't quite click. I'm sorry, but it just didn't work for me. And Zach Galifianakis, as I said, was totally not like him. I didn't recognize him at all, probably because I haven't seen him in like 15 years or whatever. But he totally didn't look like him, and I really couldn't recognize him for most of the film. But I think he did an okay job, right? But this guy was just weird. I don't know. There's something off about him. And I think this film was generally carried. Oh, and also there's this guy who acts as Nani's boyfriend. He doesn't really do enough in this film. He doesn't really have a moment of his own. Doesn't do anything intelligent and or anything like that. He's just very much part of the story. And the only real important characters that you have to remember, this guy's there for the cameos and the memes, right? That's just part of the cartoon. But the real performances are between Nani and Lilo, and damn, this actress, she did a phenomenal job. I don't know how young this kid is, but she acts as Lilo, who's like what, 6 years old, right? And my God, that kid can act. Holy shit. I didn't know that kid is this kid is so freaking talented. Like whoever found this, I hope they do whatever they can to protect this kid. She's gonna be a phenomenal actress when she grows up. She did such an amazing job. Every scene that she was in was believable. She really was all in it, right? You really could feel like that's Lilo, and you're looking at her like, God damn it, that's Lilo. She likes Stitch. She's a crazy little girl, and she likes this monster, and you need someone like crazy like her to end up in this scenario. And I think she did an amazing job. And her sister Nani as well, I think, also did a pretty good job. There's just too many posters. What the hell are the characters? She also did a pretty amazing job, and the sister relationship was very much what's driving this film. It's a very emotion-driven film, and Stitch was pretty much just the mascot for most of that. And I think it has its flaws, it has its weaknesses. I think the animation quality was pretty good, all things considered. That's one thing I think this film achieves really well is the animation quality. I think it does a good job with that. Um, the music was okay. I missed quite a few of the original songs. I felt like it just didn't give me the impact. Like How to Train Your Dragon had great music and soundtracks in the background. This film just didn't carry that, right? They played very much their familiar songs towards the end and the end credits and all of that. But I think the big sequence where Stitch is supposed to go and fight the giant shark to save Lilo, since that didn't really happen, the biggest moment was just him fighting off Zach Galifianakis trying to free himself, and then Lilo goes to rescue him using the portal gun or something like that. So it just didn't feel as strong as I think the ending did in the animated film. I think that's my biggest gripe about this. But is it a worth watch? I would say yes. I still think the relationship between the two sisters and the chaos that Stitch creates is truly enjoyable. I think all of them played a did great overall. I do recommend this. This is very much a kids film. It's very very suitable, but I think the adults can also enjoy it. I think my wife was pretty much crying for like I don't know like a good long time through some of these emotional scenes. They were really really good, and the story between the sisters, as I said, very believable. That they're two sisters who have this large age gap and they're just trying to survive what's happening here. And they really truly carried the film. So, what would be my rating for Lilo and Stitch? I would say this is a solid 5. And reason being is because there's nothing original about the story, of course, and it actually is worse than the original story because it makes some deviations that just were not strong enough. The animation in this film was good. I think that's one of the better parts of it, and the characters of Nani and Lilo performed really well. Stitch was okay. He was cute. He did all the Stitch stuff, but he didn't really have the moment where you're like, holy shit, that's 626, right? And you didn't really have that moment. There was one good sequence in the beginning where he escapes, but that's pretty much it. I think that's the best sequence of showing what Stitch can truly do. And towards the end, you don't really quite see enough of that. Jumba and Pleakley as well. They did their own thing, but they don't really have that moment where they decide to help Stitch to go and fight the villain. And so cutting that out sort of doesn't redeem them because Jumba stays as the ultimate villain in the story towards the very end. And that sort of, I would say, is a bit off character for what Jumba's supposed to be, at least as per the original story, because the idea is that Jumba's a genius and Jumba just wanted to create this creature of chaos, and he was actually going to, be penalized for that, right? Like he's been working on these experiments to create the ultimate weapon, and the government, instead of like understanding him, allowing him to actually continue his experiments or know why he's doing this, they just straight away went up and tried to shut everything he's doing down. And towards the very end of this film, in the live action, he actually tries to convert 626 to 627. And he says that's like he's going to do that, and that will take away Stitch's emotion and perfect him, or something like that. I don't know, it just didn't feel strong enough. It disconnected Jumba and Pleakley, cut them off separately, and Pleakley joined forces with Tutu, Cobra Bubbles, and they were going around the island on like a motorbike looking for Stitch. I felt all of that was a bit of a waste of time. I think they should have very much showcased the power of the alien team, which is Pleakley, Jumba, and Stitch, and how they help save the child of Earth, which is Lilo. And that actually should be the reason to unite them with the forces of Earth. This one just felt a little bit like a soap opera towards the very end, and I didn't really like that. But other than that, it's a fun little film. I really enjoyed it, but nowhere near as strong as How to Train Your Dragon. Please check that review out. I think I would have dropped it just before this one, and that was what by far a better film. There's no doubt about it. But I really did enjoy Lilo and Stitch, and I think It might be worth a watch at least once. I don't think you would want to watch this film more than once. I think the original animated film is still better. That's probably the thing you should do after watching this, because I think it brings back better memories and overall felt stronger. And the rest of this just didn't feel big. I think Disney just should stop doing live action remakes. I don't think they're really good at it. I think let's be honest here, right? Disney was good at quite a few things, but definitely not remakes. It's not their strong suit. And I think Universal has figured out that they actually have a strength, and that's live action remakes such as How to Train Your Dragon, which is why I think they should do the second film, and they might actually do better here. And in this one, I hope they do not continue this. And if they do end up doing the second film, I'd be shocked because I think Disney at that point is just using the film to launder money because they're definitely not earning anything in this, right? So that'll be kind of weird. But that's it for me for this one. There's not too much else for me to review because, as I said, it's a bit of a hollow story overall, other than the relationship between the two sisters, which I think is the strongest part of the film. And I think the actors and actresses did a great job to portray that. But that's about it. It's generally the strengths of Lilo and Stitch. So if that's something you think that you might enjoy or your kid might enjoy, please go ahead and check it out. Otherwise, if you want a more holistic story that gives you a great character arc, a father and son relationship, a man and beast relationship, a coming of age story, a little bit of romance as well, then a great action sequences, great music, great visuals, then How to Train Your Dragon is a superior film by all means. It is twice the film that this is. It's literally like watching a film versus nothing. That's just how powerful How to Train Your Dragon is compared to Lilo and Stitch. But Lilo and Stitch again for me is the best Disney live action remake. I do not think there's been a better Disney live action remake than this Lilo and Stitch. I could be wrong if I'm missing out a film that that's not in my memory recently, but I don't think Disney has done a good live action remake ever. And I think this is a good attempt. I would say it's a mid attempt, but it's definitely nowhere near as strong as me just watching Lilo and Stitch. I think the original I would have rated the original probably a 6 or 7, right? Lion King is like a 9 or 10. Cinderella is like an 8 or 9. Snow White. We know how to rate those originals because they were really powerful films. They're great stories, and they're still relevant. You could still watch them and enjoy them. The music is great. The characters, the narrative drives the character's story incredibly well. Everyone understands what's happening. It's made for children, so it's so clear, so well depicted. You could watch some of those movies on mute, and they would still make sense, right? Because that's how creative people were in the early days. But I think we've lost the sense of creativity, which is why we have fallen back on all these remakes. Because we actually sacrifice creativity for progress. And I'm not really sure if I can go, in depth to explain this. But it's not something I'm going to be doing in this video at least, and not for now. So that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.